It's not because we are starting a war against men. Please, you guys should chill. I realized that a lot of people actually don't understand what gender equality means. So this video is basically going to be, throwing light on that topic, what gender equality really is and what is the point. Because some people are like, okay, you're talking about gender equality. What really is the point? What's the end goal? Why is this such a big deal? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Okay. Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Ogulu. If you're just bumping by this channel for the first time, you're invited to subscribe to the channel. I'm sure you will not regret it. I put out 2 videos a week, and on Thursdays I sit down like this and talk about topics centered around my faith in Christ, my Christian faith, personal development, gender justice, and women empowerment. And on Sundays I put out videos that are just basically lifestyle content. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely click the subscribe button and join the community. Okay, and to my subbies, welcome back. It's good to have you back. As you can see, I decided to change the setting. And basically, it's just about a week or 2 ago I got back here, so I think I'm finding my rhythm finally, with the idea I had in mind, or the purpose I had in mind for this channel. So I think this is so much more comfortable, and it's just a better setting altogether for our sit down videos. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing fine. I hope your week has been productive so far. I have had a busy weekend. I've had a busy week so far, rather. It's been work, it's been school. I'm in school and I'm actually in I am actually so busy. I have no idea why I'm doing content right now, because I have work, I have school. I'm in 2 programs right now at the same time. I'm doing a program in biblical studies, and I'm also doing a program in public policy and administration, and my exams are actually fast approaching. I'm supposed to be reading right now but I'm doing this content, but I'm definitely reading. I'm spending a lot of my time reading right now because my exams are coming up soon. Anyway, I'm just trying to say that my week has been indeed very packed and very busy. I was recently under the weather, but not so much, just because the weather is cold, right? And then I sprained my neck the other day when I slept. I was so tired. I feel like when I'm so tired and the weather was so cold, so I was just enjoying my sleep so much that I didn't really I felt like I gave myself permission to just sleep anyhow I like, and I woke up with a sprained neck, which is getting better right now. So yeah, that's how my week has been so far. Let me know how your week has been in the comments, any interesting things that has been going on in your week. I look forward to hearing about it. This week I want to share about gender equality, what the point is in gender equality. And the reason why is because I have been talking a lot about gender equality recently. Gone I've focused a lot more on women advocacy, rather, and just gender justice, basically, because women advocacy is a subset of gender justice, right? At the heart of it is really gender justice. It's not trying to show off one gender for the other gender. It's trying to bring back a balance to an already imbalanced dynamic, and unbalanced dynamic. That's why I'm passionate about women advocacy. So in my interactions with people, as I talk about gender equality, especially on the social media space, I realized that a lot of people actually don't understand what gender equality means. So this video is basically going to be, throwing light on that topic, what gender equality really is and what is the point. Because some people are like, okay, you're talking about gender equality, what really is the point? What's the end goal? Why is this such a big deal? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Okay, so stick around so you can I'm very sure that this is something that you will enjoy, and I would love to hear your thoughts and your comments after the video or while you're watching. Okay, make sure to leave a comment. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and interacting with you in the comment section. If you're not subscribed at this point, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button again and join the family or the community or whatever. I have my laptop with me here because I needed to arrange my thoughts so that I can I can be a bit scatterbrained sometimes, and that's why I prefer writing, right? It allows me to organize my thoughts. So I've already done a note, so I'm going to just be following that note to give me some level of structure. Anyway, what is gender equality? Let's look at what gender equality means. Gender equality means that the rights, interests, needs, and priorities of both men and women are taken into equal consideration in every area of life, whether it is in education, employment, leadership, politics, or at home. It means that a person's gender should not be used as a basis to disenfranchise them from their fundamental human rights to life, expression, dignity, education, autonomy, choice, opportunities, leadership, healthcare, beliefs, and etc. Anything that falls under fundamental human rights. So this is what gender equality is. What gender equality does not mean. Gender equality does not mean that men and women are biologically the same. Because I think that when people hear gender equality, they are saying men and women are not the same. That's not what it means. I just explained what it means. Gender equality is not saying men and women are biologically the same. That's not what it means. It's obvious to anyone that has eyes and that can see, or, that even has just intuition that men and women, by the very fact that we're bearing different names, okay, although we are the same as human beings in the sense that we are both human beings, we are not the same biologically. That's a given. Gender equality is not saying we are the same biologically. Gender equality is not saying that there are no differences at all between men and women, even outside of biology. That's not what gender equality is saying. Gender equality is not saying that men and women do not sometimes have different needs and roles. Sometimes being the key word, because sometimes some people, take gender roles to like a whole different, they overemphasize it, overextend it to the point where it seems like we are two different species of people. Gender equality is not saying that women are superior to men. It's definitely not saying that. It's also not saying that men are superior to women. In fact, gender equality is trying to establish the fact that men are not superior to women and women are not superior to men. We are simply equal in value. That's what gender equality is about. It's saying that even though we are different biologically and we are the same, we have the same value, we are the same as human beings, and then we have the same value, as human beings. That's what gender equality is saying. Now I want to go into why gender equality is so important. I feel like this is the crux of this video. Why gender, what's the point, right? When people are like, okay, yes, you're saying we are equal in gender, we are saying gender equality, men are not superior, women are not superior. Okay, we've heard. But what's the point of all this? Let me go into it. Number one, the reason why the messaging of gender equality is so important, I'm going to even rearrange this thing because I feel like this, okay, I think I'll leave my arrangement, but rearrange it a bit. What I wanted to say now, I put it as number 3, but it should be number 2. So I'm just going to start with the reason why the messaging of gender equality is so important is because it humanizes women and allows for women to be treated like equal human beings rather than as secondary tenants in the world or as infants or children. There's something in the society, and you can't lie. If you're honest to yourself, you'll see that the society treats women as though we are secondary tenants, as though we are tenants renting space in a man's world. But that's not the truth. Or sometimes as though we are children and being managed by our parents who are men. But that is so not true. In fact, that is an injustice. And that's why the messaging of gender equality is so important. It's trying to say that women are not renting space in a man's world. Though. The world belongs to men and women and men. The world doesn't belong to one gender, primarily, and the other gender is just squatting with them. The world belongs to both men and women and men, and so equal space, equal opportunity, equal room should be given to both men and women. Not one gender should not be dominating over the other gender. No, both genders should be dominating the world together, should be partnering together in exercising dominion in the world. Both genders should have space to thrive, to grow, to blossom, to just have expression and all of that in the world. That's that's the messaging behind gender equality, okay? And women should not be micromanaged as though we are children. Women are equal human beings. A man and a woman are both human beings in the same equal measure. Like, a man is not my superior simply because he's a man. Nope. I am not a man superior simply because I am a woman. We are simply both human beings. That's the messaging of gender equality. And it's so important because if people don't understand, and not understanding that is misogyny, because misogyny is the messaging that men are somehow are superior to women, and men should dominate over women, and men are the center of the world. Basically, men should be centered and women should be decentered, because the opposite of having a gender equality mindset is having a misogynistic mindset. And what that mindset does, and why it needs to be done away with and replaced with a gender equality mindset, is that it makes people move in a way that they are constantly, decentering women, constantly erasing women, constantly excluding women, constantly, dismissing women from spaces and things and interests and opportunities that women should be fully involved in. Okay, that's the reason why gender equality is so important. It brings back the message that women are human beings, equal human beings, and should be treated as such in the world. A person who used to have a misogynistic mindset but suddenly adopts, eventually, gradually or suddenly, as it should be, adopts a gender equal mindset, begins to act differently. Whatever space they are, whether it's in their family, in their society, in their culture, they act differently towards the women in their lives. And that's why it is so important, because every action we do comes from a mindset. Now, my second point in why the messaging of gender equality is so important is that gender equality opens the door for women's needs to be acknowledged and prioritized in society. Now, when women are seen as secondary, are seen as not important, are seen as, inferior to men, there are spaces and, when it comes to policies, scientific research, healthcare, education, just politics, name it, the needs basically of women are deprioritized when people have a gender unequal mindset. But when people embrace a gender equal mindset, they begin to think that men and women are both important. If there's ever a deliberation on anything that concerns human beings, the deliberation will not just be on how can we make men's lives better? How can we include men? How can we consider men? It would be on how can we make men and women's lives better, and consider their individual biological needs, or individual, societal needs, or individual circumstantial needs, or whatever, right? Things that affect men and women distinctly and uniquely. Now we know that, and that's what gender equality is about. It's saying that, and that's where equity comes in. But equity, like I was arguing with someone the other day, equity cannot happen unless there is equality. If I don't think that somebody is equal to me, meaning that somebody has the same value as me, I am never going to think to be fair to them. That's the reason why women are so deprioritized and have been so deprioritized in the world. Our needs have been ignored, dismissed, and that's because women have been seen as secondary, not equal to men. So if you think somebody is superior to another person, the natural consequence is that that person's needs is going to be prioritized over the person whose needs is secondary. That's what has been happening to women. If you do some research, women's research on women's health began significantly much later. In fact, into the 19th century is when women's health started being researched on, I believe. Let me quickly check that. It says here that research on women's health began significantly later than men's health, significantly later. And for much of modern medical history, women were completely excluded or underrepresented in clinical research. Can you imagine? So despite women and men having different biological makeup, anatomical makeup, research was basically just done on men, and then whatever was done on men was just extrapolated to understanding women's bodies, that when our bodies are obviously different. So that's really a consequence of gender inequality and centering men and decentering women, not seeing women as a priority. But what's really funny about this whole situation is that women's health, research on women's health, in order to take care of women, treat women well, was so deprioritized. But when it now came to contraceptives, the matter of contraceptives, suddenly research on women started, because the idea was that women should, of course, carry the burden of the contraceptives. It's really weird. If you can't see the inequality in that, then I don't know. Till now, we don't really have easily and widely accessible options for men to, be involved in contraceptives. And I'm talking about the research was done for women. Okay, the research was done for women so much earlier, when people started thinking about contraceptives, and that's because women who were carrying the children were like, we're not animals that are just going to be, because women were just dropping. So every time their husband sleep with them or they sleep with somebody, they are pregnant. So a woman can have like 15 children, 10 children. And are children bad? No, children are a gift from God. But what happens is that the woman's body, because pregnancy and childbirth is such a rigorous process, is something that takes so much from a woman, and it significantly impacts the health of women. Do your research. So if women are just giving birth like that, and the man is at a point, they're going to begin to start even resenting their male partners, their husbands, or their sexual partners, because it's going to be like, this experience is not even enjoyable, because every time I engage in this, in local parlance, I don't carry belly, and I'm going to go through 9 months of a lot, and give birth again, which is not even easy, and then take care of children and all of that. So women started clamoring for contraceptives, and then research started, being done on women, to how to do contraceptives for women rather than do contraceptives for the men. Because think about it, I once saw a post where it says that women are the ones who carry the baby, we are the ones who carry the baby, we are the ones who birth the babies. In fact, for so much of history, women have been the ones carrying the primary caregiving role of taking care of children, right? Now women are already carrying that much burden. So now they're asking for contraceptives, a way to prevent children from happening every single time they meet their husbands or their male sexual partners. And instead of research to be done on both men and women, so that a solution can be or even men even more, because women are already doing all of this, like I said, and men are just enjoying themselves, nothing. Instead of the research to be done, finding a way, and guess what? The man releases, like, how many a man is able to impregnate 30 women in a month, but a woman can only conceive once in a month. So who do you think contraceptives should be focused on? Men. But guess who contraceptives research was focused on? Women. And until very late, let me confirm from data. Yes, women's contraceptive research started in the early 1900s, while men's contraceptive research started in the 1970s into the 2000s. Now, they didn't really make much progress. And then in 2016, when they actually started making good progress, guess what happened? They discontinued that research, that clinical trial. Guess why? Because men were having symptoms like acne, muscle pain, mood swings, and what else? Basically, the men were having all the same symptoms that women have till today when they are on contraceptives. But they cancelled men's own because they had those issues. Now, they said in the clinical trials, they had one case where a man, somebody, killed himself. I don't know if it's okay to say the word here because of YouTube's flagging, but it's also, if you check, it's also reported in women's cases, and it was not able to be directly linked to the research. So how is it that if men are not so prioritized and women deprioritized, how is it that a clinical trial for them was cancelled? Everybody else was healthy. They were just having symptoms of, the same symptoms that women have when they're on contraceptives, and that was put on pause. But women have been going through all of that even till now, and our own was not put on pause. In fact, they keep bringing out new methods and new forms of contraceptives for women every other day, with the same symptoms in different women. That is one direct result and consequence of gender inequality. And that's why I'm saying that's the reason why gender equality messaging is so important, because our needs as women just like men, or men just like women, will be considered, equally. It wouldn't just be one person deprioritized over another person. It will be both people equally considered, right? That's just an example I gave. Now, another reason why the messaging of gender equality is so important is because it disempowers the mindset that often perpetrates violence done against women, violence and abuse done against women. Research shows that a lot of the violence done against women is directly linked to misogynistic thoughts, or places where patriarchy is heavy, where it's patriarchy is basically male centeredness, male dominance. Okay, so let me quickly go to the research, because sometimes when you're talking, people say, oh, you're just talking, but there's research work on these things, right? So let me go to the research, so I'm not just talking. Now, it says a substantial body of research links violence and abuse against women to gender inequality and patriarchal mindsets. Basically, gender inequality mindsets. These studies, conducted across various countries and disciplines, consistently show that societies with entrenched gender inequality have higher rates of gender-based violence, including domestic violence, sexual assault, and femicide. So there's a direct link between gender inequality mindsets and violence against women. Now, I'm very passionate about this one. This is the one I was talking about that I wanted to move to number 1 or number 2, right? Because I know, even before I did this research, I just know that the reason why a lot of men hit women, abuse women, do the kinds of things that they do, even, plan wicked acts and just do things to hurt women physically or emotionally or whatever, is because, there's this gender inequality mindset, misogynistic mindset, and superiority mindset, which is gender inequality, that, when somebody who you feel is beneath you does something to you, you're like, who do you think you are? And that's the way a lot of men see women. So when a woman, talks to them or does anything, in their mind, they're like, who does she think she is? She's a woman. How can she be talking to me like that? And because of that, that behavior triggers that violence, to discipline them, to punish them. That's a result of gender inequality. And that's why the messaging of gender equality is so important. Now, there's a lot of, findings. There's the World Health Organization, UN Women, and UNFPA here. There's the research done by the World Bank Voice and Agency report. There's the UNDP Gender Inequality Index and GBV. Basically, UN Special Rapporteur report. All of them basically show the connection between gender inequality mindset and gender-based violence. That's violence against women. And this is why the messaging of gender equality is being sung a lot, being pushed a lot. It's not because we are starting a war against men. Please, you guys should chill. Is because we are trying to stop the war that has forever been against women. Okay? That's what it is. And anybody who has a heart or a conscience should be able to identify with this, should be able to resonate with this, should be able to participate in this, to make sure that the world becomes a place where both men and women can thrive. Now, before I get ahead of myself, because it feels like I'm giving a closing speech, which I'm not, but I'm gradually coming to the end. Another reason why the messaging of gender equality is so important is that it puts a stop to the decentering and disenfranchising of women in family and society through exclusion, uncredited contributions, or active suppression of our presence and achievements. Now, this has happened over history, from science to literature, art, politics, religion, and even family. Gender inequality has systemically and over the years disenfranchised women from our contributions, from being acknowledged in our work, from being acknowledged in our contributions. An example of how women have been disenfranchised from from being acknowledged in our works over the years, over history, a long time, generations, is in science and technology. I'm just going to give two case studies for each because there are many. You can go and do your research yourself. There's in science and technology, there's Rosalind Franklin DNA structure, right? Her contribution, she took the X-ray diffraction image, photo 51, that was key to understanding the double helix structure of DNA. Now, James Watson and Francis Crick used her findings without her permission and received the Nobel Prize in 1962. Rosalind Franklin, who is the person that actually did this work, was never credited. Now, in history, even movies that center around histories, you see things like this. There's a lot of, findings that men are credited for that are key to the advancement in the world, where the world is today, that women women actually did, but men took the credit for it because women were seen to not be deserving of credit, right? So it's an example. I'm trying to remember a movie. This movie is so good. I can't forget the name like that. It's a movie where a black, I think it was Taraji P. Henson that acted it, and she was on this science team for her country where the men were forefront, and she wasn't even supposed to be there because there was also racism involved in that, but she was there, and then she did the equation and found the thing that they had been working on for months or years even, to help launch the space, the whatever craft into space. Now she does this after so much hard work, and guess what? Her name is just done like normal, like it can't be her name, it has to be her superior's name that is there, because she's a woman, because she was black. This is not just one case, there's just numerous cases. You can check it, and it wasn't just done to black women, it was done to women just because women are women, right? That is a gross injustice. Now, in the same science and technology, there is Katherine Johnson, a NASA mathematician. I think that's the person I was just talking about, but I'm not sure. She calculated trajectories for Apollo missions. Her role was hidden for decades until highlighted in Hidden Figures. I didn't even know I wrote it down here. I copied this research from, a search engine, but it's actually here. So that is an example of how women have been disenfranchised from their work in science and technology. Now there's literature and arts. In literature and arts, there is Mary Shelley, who did the work Frankenstein. Her contribution, she authored one of the earliest science fiction novels. Now, early critics and readers assumed her husband, Percy Shelley, had written it and gave him the credit for it. Now, that's not a weird thing, or it's not even something that we still cannot relate with in 2025, right? Women can still relate with this. No matter what a woman does, no matter what she earns, no matter what, I see it over and over again. People just see her and assume it's her husband. People just see her and assume that the reason why she was able to achieve this is because her husband did this, her husband did that. Now, in some cases, that's true. Just in the same way, the reason why husbands many times are able to achieve certain things is because of the sacrifices or work behind the scene of their wives. But they don't really do that to men. It's women that are always doing it too. It's like a woman can't achieve anything. She can't have any sense. She can't think. She can't talk. She can't, earn money. She can't have property. She can't whatever, unless her husband is behind it. So women have constantly been disenfranchised through, history. Now, I can't stay long on this. There's political activism where, women's contributions were given to men. There's modern tech and business. There's just so much here, education especially, but I can't go into that. But I will talk about family, how women are disenfranchised in family. Now, I had been thinking a lot about how it's so weird that women, are involved in the act that produces children. A man's seed, a woman's seed, a woman's seed and a man's seed gives you a child, right? And then the child is carried by the woman alone, and then the child is birthed by the woman alone, and then the child or the children come into the world, and guess whose name they bear? The man's name. Why are the children that are birthed by and cared for by both the husband and the wife bearing only the man's name? That's never going to make sense to me. I mean, there was a time it made sense to me, but now it does not make any sense to me. To me, that is disenfranchising a woman from her role in her child's life, from her place in her child's life. It is injustice as far as I'm concerned, and is one of the misogynistic and gender unequal consequences in family life. Now, there are many, but I'm not going to go into all of that in this video. Now, another reason why the messaging of gender equality is so important is that it creates room for the reception of women's gifts, talents, skills, and contributions in the world, which is really just a fitting follow-up of what I just talked about. When we have a gender equal world, when everybody has a gender equal mindset, the world suddenly, revolves not just around one gender, but around both genders. Women are able to give their contributions because they're not excluded from places just because, oh, they are women. Now they're able to, a lot of the advancement we have today in the world came from women's work. It's just that their names were erased, their contributions were hidden, and dismissed, and so we don't know that, and that's why we think that, oh, it's men. The same brain men have, women have it. In fact, just go to schools from primary to secondary to universities. There are so many more brilliant women. There are women who are so much more brilliant than men, just as there are men who are so much more brilliant than women. Brilliance is not a gender thing. There are people, there's so much that God has put in women for the world, but the world has, who knows if the reason why we don't have the cure for cancer today is because of all the years that we lost, by excluding women from research and all of that, and if there were even more women in those fields, we would always be able to put our heads together and find solutions to problems in the world. We'd always be able to put our contributions together and advance at a much faster rate than the world is advancing right now. But when women are not as seen as unequal to men, the reason even in politics, women are so cut out of politics. In fact, let me give you, and business, when it comes to power, politics, and money, women are still greatly disenfranchised, greatly, cut out from these spheres, because the general mindset is that women are not supposed to, because women don't have the mental skills, blah blah. Just in the USA, just how many years ago, what am I saying? How many years ago? That's last year when the US did their election. A lot of the thought and comments around why the US didn't want Kamala was just because she's a woman. People kept saying she's a woman, she won't have the grit, blah blah blah. But since then, we've seen how, we've seen that men are also capable of expressing emotion. But they're saying that the world keeps saying because a woman can express emotion, it means that she can't express logic. It's so ridiculous, right? In Nigeria, we have 0 female governors right now, and Nigeria has had no female president since its independence. Now, in Nigeria currently, we have 20 female legislators out of 469 members of the National Assembly. In the Senate, we have 4 out of 109 seats, women occupying just 4 seats out of 109 seats. That's 2.7% out of 100%. In the House of Representatives, we have women occupying 16 out of 360 seats. That's 4.7% out of 100%. Now, tell me how women policies are going to be made, how women are going to be represented in our legislature, in our lawmaking, in our policy formulation. Women's needs cannot be represented because women are barely there to represent us, and the women who are there have to do so much to pander to men in order to stay there. It is a terrible and gross injustice being done against women, and that's why Nigeria is not very conducive for women, or the world is still not very conducive for women. And that's why we have a lot of women who we term rebellious women, because they are really just fighting for their space in the world. And when that is done to you, what else do you expect? It's like saying that slaves should not have rebelled against their slave masters. The world was not conducive to them. Nobody wants to be in a situation where their dignity is being stripped out of them, their freedom is being stripped of them, their rights are not being given to them. They have to beg for every single thing that should naturally be theirs by right, So anyway, it's just really sad. Across the world, across Africa, we have 8 female national leaders, 2 who are female presidents, 6 who are prime ministers, and this is out of 54 sovereign nations in Africa. And there's just a lot when it comes to, economy. In the Fortune 500, women occupy just 10.4% of CEO positions in the world. Now, this is a constant number since 2023's research, right? And within the S&P 500, female CEOs account for roughly 8.2% of firms. In many major corporations, male CEOs outnumber female CEOs by a margin of approximately 19-1 globally. Now, what happens is that women have, fought a lot, advocated a lot, and now women are allowed in the workforce. But if you check research, women are allowed in the workforce, but when you start going up, right, to managerial positions and then administrative positions, CEO positions, the number starts dwindling. Now you have a lot of men in those spaces. It's quite, sad. Now, to my last point today in this video on why the gender equality messaging is so important is because it puts an end to the systemic economic disempowerment of women and allows for the empowerment of women across all spheres of life, whether in family and society, through equal access to education, healthcare, work opportunities, decision making, leadership, property ownership, and etc. This brings me to the end of this my point in this video, and I'm just going to say that gender equality is not a nuisance. It's not something that people are just. It's not something that is just a noise making spray. It's not something that is a bandwagon talk. It's not a cliche. It is not. It is literally, the lives of women literally depend on the messaging of gender equality. If we do not continue to spread the message that women are equal, that both genders, men and women, are equal, have equal value, deserve equal opportunities, deserve to be considered, their needs to be considered in the same way that their gender counterparts, men, are considered, more women will keep dying from femicide, from gender-based violence. More women will continually be erased from their contributions in the world. More women will continually be disenfranchised. I didn't even mention that women could not vote until just a few decades ago. I don't even think it's up to a century ago in most places in the world. You can go and do your research. And even if it's a century ago, that is really early. Do you know how long this world has been? That women, a whole half of the population, were excluded from voting simply because they were women. If you can't see the injustice in that, I don't know what to say. I don't know. It's a problem. It's a problem. I feel like anybody that can't see the injustice in that is literally a threat to human life and a threat to women's life. For a long time, women didn't have equal access to education. Even till now in Nigeria, I did the research on statistics a few weeks ago, but I can't remember it top of mind. But I know that there's still a wide gap between the education of men and women in Nigeria. Now, and in the world, this is a problem because when women don't have access to education, they remain economically disempowered. In fact, women who have access to education are still economically disempowered because women are trying to play catch up to years of, being excluded. That's what's going on. And then we're still, even with the fact that we're trying to play catch up, we're still plagued with so many stumbling blocks because the society is not considering the unique needs of women in society. Now, this is why, as a woman, as a man, gender equality should be something that you take seriously. It's not something you should look away from. It's not something you should look at with skepticism. It's not something that you should sneer at. It's something that affects human beings like you and I, because we are all human beings. And women's rights is not just a women's rights issue. It is a human rights issue. And if you care about human rights, you should care about the messaging of gender equality. And I hope you are not one of those people who say what we should be talking about is gender equity. Because I have shown you, if we don't believe in gender equality, we can never truly believe in gender equity. People who believe in gender equity outside of gender equality are people who believe that they are doing women a favor when they give women certain rights and certain opportunities. It's like, you don't really deserve it. After all, we're not equal, but I'm giving you a favor. It's like they're trying to maintain their place of dominance. That's not the same thing. Gender equality is saying that men and women are equal human beings, equal in value, equal in social status, and should therefore be given the same equal rights, fundamental human rights, and consideration for our needs in society. That's what gender equality is saying. And because we believe that women are equal, we will now treat women with equity. We will now look at, women's needs, women's unique needs, because of our unique biological setup, unique psychological or anatomical setup, and then create policies, create infrastructures, create, space to accommodate those things for women to thrive in society, rather than building managerial blocks and stumbling blocks because of women's unique needs. No. So this is the point of today's video, and let me know what you've gotten from this video. Let me know if you've learned a thing or two from this video, what you've learned in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are about this video in the comment section, and make sure to click the thumbs up button. Don't go, so that the algorithm can boost this video for more people to see, because we want the messaging to go out, right? And then if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Make sure to click that subscribe button. Okay, and then I'll see you in the next video. Also share the video. I'd really appreciate that. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself. Bye bye.